Hello and welcome back to another video. Getting faster in Forza Motorsport can be rather tricky, so we want to help you get there. In this video we will go through throttle techniques, braking techniques, steering and more tips and tricks with the aim of making you as fast as you can possibly get. As Forza Motorsport has a large variety of cars you can pick from, learning to go faster in one car doesn't necessarily mean you'll gain time in another car. So to keep things simple, we will stick to actual track-focused racing cars for the time being. So let's kick things off by slowing them down. The basic way to brake is in a straight line. Go to 100% brake pressure and lift off fully before taking the corner. This is perfectly straightforward, and if all corners were set up like this, we'd be fine. But because they aren't, you have to employ different techniques to optimise your braking across various cars and tracks. Arguably the most used braking technique is trail braking. This is the act of gradually coming off the brake pedal into a corner. Whilst an inexperienced driver might sharply come off the brakes when they're not needed anymore, drivers who use trail braking experience a much more settled car on corner approach. This is because the weight transfer from back to front is gentle, meaning the car is more balanced and less likely to snap out of control. Trail braking will also help keep the weight over the front axle into the corner, which results in additional grip from the front tyres. Looking at the telemetry on the Track Titan platform, we can see that by trail braking, the driver in blue is not only taking more speed into the corner as a result of this technique, but they can get on the throttle sooner compared to the driver in orange who does not trail brake. This is due to the orange driver waiting for the car to stabilise before accelerating, whereas the blue driver has already stabilised the car with trail braking and is ready to accelerate away. In this one corner, the driver in blue gains a lot of time over the driver in orange. So make sure you practice the trail braking technique, as it can be applied to almost any car you drive on any game to help you optimise your braking performance. Now you've done the tricky bit of navigating the corner, let's discuss the throttle. There is a highly common mistake that we see drivers making very often, and that is being impatient in getting on the accelerator. Now we get it, you want to start accelerating as early as you can, but there is a line. You may see getting on the throttle sooner as a good thing, and for the most part it is. But while you'll gain mid-corner speed, you'll lose exit speed if you start accelerating too soon. You see, remember we spoke about the weight transfer during trail braking? Well, the same applies while accelerating. Of course, on the throttle it has the opposite effect to trail braking, as the weight transfer is from front to back. If you accelerate too soon coming out of the corner, the weight will go towards the back of the car and will no longer be pushing the front tyres into the ground. Unfortunately, this means you'll have less grip on the front tyres, and it will mean the speed you can take the corner is lower than if the weight was over the front. So in a lot of cases, those who accelerate too soon out of a corner will have a higher minimum speed, but will have to stay at that minimum speed for a lot longer, which is where they lose the time. Whereas those drivers who are patient will drop to a lower speed briefly before being able to accelerate at a higher rate out of the corner. We can see here the blue driver has done exactly this mistake and started accelerating sooner than the orange driver. And whilst that is good for mid-corner delta, we can see they have to heavily modulate the throttle coming out of the corner to not lose grip on the front tyres. The orange driver on the other hand drops to a lower speed, starts accelerating later, but has a far steeper line to 100% because they have been patient and got on the throttle at the correct time. You'll notice the difference between these two approaches, particularly in long corners, so be sure to test out different acceleration points on a circuit until you find the best one. Alternatively, on Track Titan, you can compare yourself against the professionals and see exactly where they start accelerating, so there's no guesswork involved. On top of that though, we have some very exciting news. If you're watching this video, you're probably not a complete novice to sim racing, and if that is the case, you may already be familiar with telemetry. If so, then we have something just for you. For those advanced drivers out there, Track Titan now has advanced mode. No need to click between tabs, carefully analysing each input individually. You can see all your driving inputs simultaneously and see exactly where you're losing time. If you sign up to Track Titan with the code ForzaAdvanced24, you can get 30 days of unlimited data insights for free across any supported game you like. Now back to it. You've got your pedal inputs working better, let's take a look at the steering. It might seem simple, but there are a lot of common mistakes that we see drivers making. Firstly is understeer. This is where the front tyres lose grip and you end up using far more of the circuit ground than you'd bargained for. We see a lot of especially novice drivers just turning more to try and combat this, but this is in fact one of the worst things that you can do. Not only will it make the wheels more susceptible to locking up, but it will cause additional tyre wear too. Of course you could just slow down, but this is racing, what's the fun in that? Unless you're driving like you're in an F1 open lobby and decide braking points are merely suggestions, you shouldn't have to slow down too much to avoid the understeer. Of course, understeer is caused by the car going too fast for the front tyres to cope with the direction change. So if you're going at a reasonable speed, what could be the problem? It could be down to anything from the tyres being worn, wrong line through a corner, incorrect braking technique, or even just the wrong setup if you want to go a bit more in depth. So when you experience understeer, ensure you are trail braking, avoid the throttle, open up the steering, and maybe try a different line too. Now let's flip to oversteer. This is the opposite of understeer, as the front does in fact turn. A little too much in fact, and consequently your back end decides it has seen Colin McRae's driving style and has taken a little too much inspiration. Basically, your rear end is losing control. This will normally occur on corner exit when you throttle too much and spin the wheels, you come off the throttle too quickly on corner entry, you trail brake too heavy into a corner, or you have a sudden weight transfer like through a chicane. Regardless if you slide and catch it or just spin completely, both will lose you time, so understanding the grip limit is essential. When you accelerate out of a corner, you want to get to 100% throttle as soon as possible, but not at the expense of grip. This is why you'll see drivers modulating the throttle out of a corner to ensure the car stays pointing forwards. So if you are experiencing oversteer, be patient on the throttle and wait until you know you can accelerate without the car losing traction. On either of these 2 points, if you're unsure if you're going too fast, on the throttle too soon, or not braking correctly, don't forget you can analyse your telemetry against professional drivers to see exactly how they are going quicker. Now, as we said at the start of the video, these tips are focused predominantly on racing cars. In a way, they can be applied to road cars too, but you'll have to adopt other techniques to master those. But those are for another time. I hope you've learned something today and can take it forwards in your own sim racing. Don't forget to sign up with the code FORZAADVANCED24 to get 30 days of unlimited telemetry insights on Track Titan. But as always, thank you for watching, see you again in the next video, drive safe and race with respect.